So we have some bad news here on the issue of immigration reform. The Hill reports the Supreme Court dealt a critical blow to President Obama's immigration policies on Thursday, deadlocking in a 4-4 decision over two controversial programs the White House wants to implement. The tied vote leaves in place a lower court ruling that blocks the programs. Okay, so needless to say, this is yet another example or another reason why we should have a full court as opposed to only 8 people on the court and having a split court. We'd like some definitive decisions here, and we'd like to have the process working as it's supposed to work. I know, a crazy opinion. So let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about President Obama's immigration executive orders here. And then again, you can keep in mind as we go through all this, now it has been blocked, and this cannot be carried out. So the decision affects 4.9 million undocumented immigrants, 4.1 million whose kids are already citizens. The idea is that under Obama's orders, these people become eligible to work, and they become sheltered from deportation. Now, they have to have been here 5 years and have no criminal record. If you have a felony or if you have 3 misdemeanors, you're ineligible for the program. So those who make it in are given Social Security numbers and are required to pay taxes, but will not get Obamacare subsidies, for example, or most government benefits. Economists have weighed in on this, and they've looked into it, and they said that this move from Obama would boost GDP, and it cuts benefits. So you got to remember all this stuff, man. All these details are really, really important because it shows you the nature of Obama's move. I mean, people are portraying this on the right like it's just mass amnesty. It's for everybody who's in the country. There's no rules. There's no deadlines. It's not a compromise. It's not a middle ground. That could not be more incorrect. Again, it only affects 4.9 million undocumented immigrants when there's over 11 million in the United States. You cannot be a criminal. You can't have committed a felony or even 3 misdemeanors. All it does is makes you eligible to work and shelters you from deportation. And you get a Social Security number and you pay taxes, but you don't get Obamacare subsidies or most government benefits. So this is something the right should salivate over. And in fact, here's another reason you know that Obama did not overstep his constitutional authority. At the time when he announced this executive order, he also said, we're not going to help agricultural workers because we don't have the authority to do so. So that was a big thing that activists on the left were pushing him on. They're like, you got to do something about these agricultural workers. A lot of them are working in, conditions for less than minimum wage, and they're terrible conditions, and there's no safety regulations, and they're undercutting other workers, yada, yada, yada. And Obama was like, look, I want to do something about the agricultural workers, but I can't because I don't have the authority to do it. Whereas the other stuff he laid out, he does have the authority to do. So it shows you that while in other areas, granted, in many areas he has overstepped constitutional authority. I mean, the classic example of that is the drone strike on Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, who was the son of a suspected terrorist, and he's an American citizen, and they just blew him up with a drone. So I'm not saying Obama cares so deeply about the Constitution. Obviously, in some respects, he doesn't. But when it came to immigration reform, he knew that there was going to be a massive backlash from the right, so he walked on eggshells, and he did a proposal that he knew he had the authority to do. But what happened? Well, the right still came out against it, and now a court ended up slapping it down. And the cherry on top here, to me, this is the devastating fact that ends the debate, and it shows you what the blocking of this really is. Reagan and George H.W. Bush did amnesty and went further than Obama, and they gave legal status to 40% of undocumented immigrants. So what happens is, I think in the case of H.W., it got through the Senate, but it was blocked in the House, and H.W. was like, I don't care, I'm going to act on it anyway. So what did he do? Again, 40% of undocumented immigrants he gave legal status to. That's over 1 million people. So what percentage of the undocumented immigrant population does Obama's executive order apply to? 40%. So in other words, if you're on a court that said this is unconstitutional and he can't do it, and remember, that's the ruling that stands right now, well then, hey, jackasses, you got to go back in time and undo the actions of George H.W. Bush and undo the actions of Reagan. Obama, understand guys, Obama literally took the model that was set up from Reagan and H.W. Bush. And he not only did that, he was a little more cautious than they were. And what happens? Right-wing courts are like, yeah, we don't care. We're going to slap it down anyway. But wait, you guys weren't against this when it was the Republicans who did it. I don't care. I don't care. I'm against it now. How about that? So they have no constitutional standing here. They have no reason to do what they do. They just decided, fuck it. It's a Democratic president. There's a partisan environment. I'm shutting it down. I'm shutting it down even though what he did is totally reasonable and it's fine constitutionally. They don't care. They shut it down. So, yeah, it's important that we have a liberal court. And by the way, this is one of the main arguments why I would say if I was in a swing state, I would suck it up and cry as I vote for Hillary Clinton. Because, yes, Hillary Clinton's Supreme Court picks would be better than Donald Trump's. It would be Merrick Garland, and Merrick Garland, unfortunately, in some ways, is a centrist. So he's kind of right-wing on criminal justice issues. He's right-wing on some due process issues when it came to Guantanamo Bay. But outside of that, money in politics, he was for more transparency, but he was wrong on Citizens United. So he's not that great on that issue. But on all the other issues, there's no question that he's more left-leaning, which is why he's a centrist judge. Now, we could be mad at him, and I am mad at him for being centrist as opposed to left-wing, but Donald Trump has promised he would appoint Scalia 2.0. It's not a question as to whether or not Garland is more liberal than Scalia. It is a fact that Garland is more liberal than Scalia. So if you have Garland on the court for this decision, then we get Obama's undocumented immigration reform and executive order in place, and 4.9 million people have a better life. So this nuance exists. This nuance is real. There are differences, even between shitty center-right corporatist Dems and Republicans, and we need to keep that in mind.